Good morning and welcome back. As you can see here, I've got the new turtle figures from the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem toy line slash film. I don't normally collect the sort of 5-inch figures or basic line stuff, but I have to say I really like the look of the new Turtles, and the new toy line looks fantastic to the point that I actually caved, and I've obviously picked up the Turtles themselves, and in this big box here should be the remaining figures of Wave 1 and a couple of the vehicles. So let's open this box up and take a look at what we've got. Okay, so we'll move the 4 turtles out of the way, and then we will open this box and see what we've got. So this order was from Smith's Toy Superstores. As you can see here, right in the box, everything's been really well packaged. We have the pizza fire van, battle cycle, and looks like our figures are under there. Let's take a look. Let's move these packages. Oh, there. A can of Mutant Ooze. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And here we have the rest of the figures. We have Splinter, Bebop, Rocksteady, Leatherhead, and Superfly. Okay, I'm going to take these out of the box and we'll start taking a look at them. And here we are with all of the figures out of the box. I believe this is the entirety of the, at least, hopefully, first wave of basic carded figures, along with the pizza fire van, which is obviously this iterations of the party wagon, along with the battle cycle. Sadly, you can't seem to buy April in the UK at all, and I believe at present the only way to obtain April is through a Target exclusive 5-6 pack in the States, which is very disappointing. I always like having April, or sorry, the female figures in a collection, and it does seem like a complete miss to not include her in the first wave of figures. Anyway, let's start looking at some of these figures. So as you can see, the turtles themselves have their own individual card backs. You have the sewer backdrops, which is quite common with these figures these days, and then the turtles have their own individual shot on the side of the packaging. Then on the reverse we have a movie artwork style of the other figures in Wave 1. We have a summary of the film. Busting out of the New York sewers are four bodacious brothers ready to kick butt, born from mysterious mutant ooze. These tubular turtles and their radical rat dad have trained in the art of ninjutsu to become a bad guy Bashin super team, with their buddy April O'Neil, who, as I said, is missing from this. They're about to face the gnarliest mutants the world has ever seen. And then down in the bottom of the packaging, we each have a character bio. So we have Raph, who likes to break things. We have Donatello, bio, who is devastatingly smart. Leonardo, who's the leader. Mikey, who's the comedian. We then have their dad, Splinter. As you can see, Splinter's card back is the same as the villains, in that you just have a group shot of the four turtles. The back remains the same, with an individual bio on the bottom, and he is the dad / sensei. We then have the four villains. We have Superfly, who seems like he is likely to be the big bad of the film. We have Bebop. Rocksteady, and Leatherhead, who is very reminiscent of their vintage 80s style look, which I have to say is quite like. And then we have the two vehicles. Let's have a quick look at the battle cycle. I think it might be advertised on the bottom here, but there is one other vehicle in the playset, which is the Ninja Kick Cycle with Leonardo. However, having seen that in the stores and having seen a few reviews for it, it doesn't interest me at all, sadly. So I've skipped that one, and I currently have no intentions of picking it up. In fact, the only other bit from this wave that I intend to pick up, or hope to pick up at least, is the playset at some point. And finally we have the Pizza Fire van. It's yellow and green decals make it look very reminiscent of the original Party Wagon from what was it, 86-ish, 87, late 90s, sorry, late 80s even. And in the top right here we have a summary of the van. These turtles deliver justice and pizza on time, guaranteed. Get all the turtles assembled and and load them in their new pizza van with the van's mobile pizza launcher. They combine turtle power and pizza power to blast the baddies into submission. The back also has a summary of various action features, which includes pushing the pizza to launch out the pizza launcher. The front opens to allow for placing of the characters. There appears to be character grips throughout the vehicle. And is there a bio? Yes, sorry, I missed the bio on the back of the battle cycle. Team up with Raph and take down villains of the move. With the Turtles' new battle cycle, as Raph steers the cycle through the streets, one of his brothers can battle at his side and from behind the transformable side gear, Turtle style. We'll open a couple of these and take a look at them. So here we have Splinter, who will be the first figure we take a look at. We've had a quick look at the packaging, but just one final quick scan over. You can see there's a summary of who the character is at the bottom of the name. So he is the Master Sensei. They're all in a plastic windowed packaging. You can see that you get the character, at least one loose accessory, and then a weapons rack, which is very, very reminiscent of the original Turtle line. Removing Splinter from the card back, you can see that the bulk of the card display is given over to a purple brick motif for the sewer. There's lots of little details in it, from ooze to graffiti across this, and then the where the clamshell is, you can see the sewer wall has been smashed away to reveal a deeper area of the sewer in a yellow card back. Again, very reminiscent of the original toy line. Removing Splinter out the clamshell, you can see that it's tied in with one of those cardboardy / plasticky string points, and then the weapons rack's tied in with those little plastic clips, which I personally despise. And here we have Splinter out of the packaging. Personally, I always find Splinter to be one of the more interesting characters design-wise, just because he always goes through such radical changes between each of the iterations of the Turtles. This version of him is looks oddly reminiscent of the original toy line or cartoon series, except he's a little more plumper, which in some respects reminds me of the previous Rise series. So as you can see, Splinter is cast primarily in a grey plastic. The ears and nose are painted pink, along with the nails. He's then got a red robe on with a white t-shirt underneath and a pair of grey trousers. We can see his feet have some bandage decals on them, or moulding should I say, but those are unpainted. Right, let's have a look at the articulation on this. So, articulation wise, we have ball joint and hinges at the shoulders, and you get the full 360 motion. Its range is hindered by the hard plastic of his shoulder, pads. Would have been nicer if maybe that was a softer plastic to allow a greater range of movement, but it doesn't restrict it that much. Head is just on a swivel. Elbows on a rotating hinge, so you get a nice range of movement there. And wrists rotate. There is anything at the waist? No, there's nothing at the waist. Tail rotates. I think, yeah, it just rotates. And the legs are like the arms. They are on a hinge. There's nothing at the knees, but he has got ankle rockers. Standing him is proving to be awkward. Sorry, I can't seem to get a good display on this. Bear with me. So, yeah, because we can't get any knee joints, and because of his tail, posing him is awkward. Sorry. As you can see, he won't stand on his own. So I finally got him standing. Unfortunately, he does seem to lean quite a bit, and the posability in the legs in order to get him standing is very limited, which is a shame, but is likely to be an aspect of the mould. Accessories wise, he has his walking stick, which, reminiscent of the original toy line, opens up to reveal a small sword cane, and then he has an unpainted weapons rack which has a bow, an arrow set reminiscent of the original toy line, has a couple more of the cane swords and a couple throwing stars. Overall, oh sorry, the other thing I forgot to mention is his glasses are in a soft plastic and they peg in just at the back here, so you can see that they are removable, which is a nice touch. And again, he just won't stand. I like the figure, I like the design of the figure. I'm looking forward to seeing Jackie Chan portray Splinter. Somehow that seems like a role almost he was born for. But yeah, getting this figure to stand is near impossible, and that does hinder it. I can see a lot of children getting quite frustrated when they're trying to stand it, but perhaps they'll take to just leaning it against something, which is what I used to do with figures that wouldn't stand when I was a kid. Moving on to the next figure. Hello, and we now have Rocksteady. As you can see, the packaging remains the same throughout, so I won't spend any more time on the packaging. We will get him opened and we will take a look. So Rocksteady, straight out of the packaging, is a little harmless and does need the minor assembly. This is even detailed at the bottom of the packaging, and it's the simple of plugging it in. So the arm plugs in simple enough. It is a bit of a push and children may want an adult to help them. It can fit in anyway, but for the sake of properly fitting, it does need to line up like so. You can see it does turn slightly, and while it's not coming out without some force, it isn't in permanently. Rocksteady stands freely on his own without any issues, which is a change from Splinter. Size-wise, he is standing at a similar height to Splinter, and that's the only thing with these figures, is that the villains seem to be approximately the same size as our heroes, where typically they are quite a bit larger, and from what we've seen in the trailers they do look to be larger than our turtles. This has obviously been done to ensure that all of the basic line figures can meet the same sale price points, and I'd imagine from a children's perspective it isn't going to be a deal breaker for them. Obviously for collectors it's an annoyance. However, we do know that we are getting the McFarlane toy line at some point, so it's possible that the villains will be scaled a little better in that, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Rocksteady has the same articulation as Splinter. His head is on a swivel, which does look a little odd, but it obviously fits with the mould, and it's nice to actually have a swiveling head like this rather than something that just rotates in a circle, which always looks odd. Arms come out and we get the full 360. There's the bend at the elbow, swivel at the wrist. Same on the legs. The only difference this time is that we actually have a knee articulation rather than swivel at the ankles. There is no swivel at the boots or movement there, nor is there any rotation at the waist. Rocksteady comes with one loose weapon and his weapons rack, which brings him a nice sledgehammer, a knife, the sewer lid shield, which is again sort of a reminiscence of the original toy line and is a nice addition to see it that, and then one more gun. Paint app wise, there's some nice paint apps. He's moulded in a solid grey, but there are some nice touches. He has one gold tooth on either side. His nose, the horns are sprayed black, but they're done in such a way that the grey is showing through, which adds a nice layer of texture to it. The shirt is in a yellowy paint. Mine does have a few paint scuffs here, but to be honest, actually on this figure it looked quite nice, and it adds a sort of look to him being dirty. We have what I assume is supposed to be hair, painted solid moulded bandolier, and I believe they're supposed to be camo trousers, but there's only a couple of black spots on them. From looking at the picture, the figure in the packaging and having seen reviews online, I really wasn't looking forward to this figure. I just thought he looked squat and odd and not really the Rocksteady that a lot of us are probably familiar with. However, that said, out of the packaging, I really do like him. I think he's different. He poses well, and I think he's going to look great alongside the others in the line. Next up is Rocksteady's best bud, Bebop. And Bebop out of the packaging. I'll take a quick look at his weapons first to make a change. His weapon rack is similar to Rocksteady's in that he has the shield again. This time it's a sewer lid. Sorry, not a sewer lid, a trash can. He's got a drill gun, spiked baseball bat, supposed to be barbed wire. Do we have a Negan in the making? And then a serrated blade. His main weapon is a drill gun, reminiscent of the original line. I will say that's something I quite like about this range of figures. There is a lot of bits which are quite reminiscent of the 80s toy line, in terms of having the weapons rack, the weapons inspired by it, and even the looks to a certain aspect. With Bebop, you can see he's got his pink hair and purple glasses. Unlike Splinter, these glasses are moulded on and are non-removable. Sorry, they're not moulded in, but they are glued in and they're not removable. He has his nose ring, which is painted, as are his tusks. The shoulder pads are a nice pliable plastic which allows for the range of movement, which is the exact same as Rocksteady. He seems to have a tattoo saying "Wow." Overall, I like the look of him. There are some paint apps missing, the grenades, his belt and tail, but as a kid's basic toy line, it's to be expected, and there's nothing there which detracts from either the playability or displayability for collectors alike. He does pose. I just haven't been able to pose him yet. We're moving on. Here we have Superfly. We'll take him out of the packaging. Superfly out of the packaging has some minor assembly with the wings, which is detailed on the base of the packaging and the same as Rocksteady. This is just a case of plugging in the wing. Bear with me. All it is a case of plugging in the upper wing and then plugging that into the hole on his back. So the wings are designed to fit only one way round. They take a bit of force to get in, and once in, they aren't really coming out. Again, young children might want help from a parent or guardian in installing the wings. As for articulation, his head is on a swivel joint, arm is on a swivel joint. There's no bend at the elbow on this one, nor can the claw move. Articulated at the other arm and bend at the elbow. Legs are on joints, but there is no articulation further down. Apologies, I am wrong. There is actually joints at the knees for bend and swivel. So posability isn't as awkward as it is with Splinter, but given his weird leg shapes and feet, it is difficult. Mold wise, I like this, but I'm not as keen on it as some of the other molds. He's got some nice big red eyes, hair on the back. The moulding on his right arm is really well done with some bulging veins. We can see the tattered remnants of his clothing, including, which I think is a really nice touch, a shoe attached to his leg. Weapon wise, he's got a fully coloured or fully painted either ray or mutagen gun, depending on what it is in the film, if it is used in the film. And his weapons rack, which has the infamous fly swatter, some other gun, and some vials and test tubes. Finally, for the villains, we have Leatherhead. think Leatherhead happens to be my favourite looking villain of the batch. That's been really well done. I want to say sheep based on the voice I heard in the trailer, but I could be wrong. Articulation remains the same throughout. Swivel on the arms, rotation at the head, legs, and this time there is rotation at the tail. She poses really well. I love the detailing on this. I really love the touch that she actually has weapon storage, unlike the other villains. We have yellow jacket, trousers pulled up to the waist. Well, actually, you know what? We say trousers pulled up to the waist, and we assume that because of the belt. However, that looks like some sort of rag dress on top with separate trousers underneath. So trousers could be worn regularly, and it could just be the belt that's high up. Weapon-wise, we have what appears to be a sawn-off shotgun, which is really nicely painted, and our now standard weapons rack. This one's got a knife in it, another form of blaster, bear trap, which is very reminiscent of the original toy line, and what appears to be a fishing rod. So there we have our villains and Splinter. So far I am really liking these figures. I love the level of detail Playmates have put into them, especially for a basic toy line. Price wise, these were $10.99 a piece, which I feel is really quite fair and reasonable, especially in this economy where other toy lines such as Hasbro's Power Rangers are now 15 plus quid for a basic line figure. These have articulation and paint apps on level with something like that. So it is nice to see. While most of the weapons they get are unpainted, the fact that they do come with multiple accessories is a really nice additional touch and feature, and gives some real playability for children and displayability for collectors. We will next be looking at the 4 Turtle Brothers. Here we are moving on to the Turtles. We're going to start with Donatello. All of the Turtles come with 3 accessories rather than the 1 accessory that the villains came with. Plus, we also get their weapons rack. Here we are with Donnie outside of the packaging. As you can see, he comes with his bow staff in a single colour. Personally, I would have liked it if perhaps they could have given a paint app along the bandaging. However, the artwork on the box does show that it's a similar colour, so you can understand why. Plus, Donnie actually comes with quite a bit more than the other Turtles. He has his glasses, which are removable, and he also comes with a painted bum bag, which is also removable. Additionally, Donnie has his weapons rack, which is the same as the villains and the Turtles. For Donnie, he gets a can of ooze, a chained bow staff with a blade at the end, a throwing star, and a piece of pizza. And then his other accessories are his headphones and a tiny little baby turtle, which has an incredibly large peg hole at the bottom. However, I have seen that in the playset there is a specific point for the baby turtles in the peg hole, so whether or not that will play into the film in some respect, I don't know. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a nice full range of movement there. The arms are on a joint and a swivel, so again, full range of movement. Same with the elbows, and the wrists are on a swivel. Legs are the same, as are the knees, and then the feet are on a swivel, but there's no other joint there. Paint apps and detailing wise, I think for the basic line figure you're paying, it's all reasonable and acceptable. I like the weird cartoony grins on the current turtles. The bandanas are fully painted, as are the elbow, wrist and knee guards. Shell is fully painted and nicely detailed. For a basic line figure, I don't know what else you could really add to keep the price to pay it is. I mean, you've even got the silver buckle on the belt, which is a nice touch, along with, if I can show it, the D for Donnie on his belt. So yeah, overall I'm really happy with the level of detail and the articulation on these figures for the price point. And as I said earlier, that when compared with other kids' toys of a similar stature on the market, these are really well done. They have a lot of accessories, great range of movement, nicely detailed. For the price you're paying, I really couldn't be happier or expect anything else. Let's take a look at the other turtles. Next up we have Mikey, and here we have Mikey. Again, same level of detail and articulation as Donnie. I like his goofy little grin. I like the fact that he's a darker shade than the Donnie. There's something I like about the turtles is that they have the darker shades to identify them along with the bandanas. The only issue I'm having with my Mikey is this elbow here is really stiff to the point I physically cannot bend it at all. I'm going to have to get a hairdryer to it. I could see if this is a common problem on the other turtles or on other Mikey figures, I could see kids snapping that arm very quickly unless a parent was to take a hairdryer to it. Mikey also comes with a little baby turtle. Both of his nunchucks. The only thing I will say about the nunchucks is it's quite a hard, stiff plastic. I can see these getting bent and snapping quite easily. I mean, look, oh yeah. It would have been nicer if perhaps these were a slightly more gummy plastic to allow a little more playability. And there's weapons rack. You've got the chains there. You've got a microphone with chains, pizza, morus, and a couple of stars. We now have Leo. We then have Leo, who is like the others in terms of the articulation. It remains exactly the same. Here's his bandolier, which is nicely painted. Even the shurikens or firing stars, on his belt have a nice paint app on them. All of the scratch detailing on his shell there. Something you would maybe attest more with Wrath, but it's nicely done. And I think but it looks like there's even a slight black wash into the shell. I might be wrong. I think that might just be where the paint's congealed. But either way, it gives it a nice level of detailing. In fact, so far, I think Leo is my favourite in terms of the looks. Everything's just really nicely detailed and done. The joints were nice and stiff on this one, but not too stiff. We have the little baby turtle again. Leo comes with his katanas, which are nicely bent and painted. And we're going to get his weapon rack with a knife, use, throwing star, some nice silver pizza, and some shurikens. I could see a lot of collectors customizing these, giving the paint up to the pizzas and the use canisters, but as a kid these are nicely playable. I think that's the key thing to remember with these figures. You know, they're a basic line. They are designed at, you know, sort of the 10-year-old market. They're not designed for collectors. So many adults review these and they start complaining that this is missing or that's missing, or they could have done this, they could have done that. But for the price you're paying and for the fact and who these are aimed at, you know, these have been really, really nicely done. And once stood on your shelf as a collector, they're going to look really nice. Oh, which notice Leo's got some scratches on his front of the shell as well. Again, these are really nicely detailed, really well done. Some nice little touches there that weren't necessary, but they've included. So yeah, so far I really, really do like these. I'm really happy with them. Let's move on to the final figure, which is Raph. The last of the basic line figures, but certainly not least, is Raphael, who remains my favourite turtle. Let's open this up and take a look. And here we had Raph and his accessories. I did have a little trouble standing Raph due to his bulkier size and larger shell makes him a little top heavy, and he wants to topple back. But a little fiddling does get him standing, and he's now standing really stable. We'll take a look at the figure itself in a second, but let's start with the accessories. So again, you get the baby turtle, done the same shade as Raph. Otherwise, all four turtles were the exact same. You've got his size, which are nicely painted and detailed. Well, actually, something I've just noticed, which I really like, is you can see that there appears to be some sort of bandaging or something on one of the sides, which isn't there on the other. That's a really nice level of detail that didn't need to be included, and certainly something that, you know, children probably wouldn't have really noticed. It was a nice touch. They're nicely painted with brown handles and the silver blades. Can't quite tell if it's just me, but I think they are two completely different molds as well. One's a slightly thicker blade. One of the prongs at the end seems to be slightly differently shaped. Might just be me. But yeah. And then, of course, we have the weapon rack. We've got some throwing stars, which have got some nice little scratches and marks on them. Some hooks. Another can of ooze. Pizza. And a shuriken. I like the fact that all of Raph's stuff's scratched and chipped and sort of bent, giving a real look of being used. And yeah, as I've said before, these are really great figures. Everything's so well detailed and thought out, especially for such a cheap basic line. So here we have the Raph figure himself. You can see that he's got the chips and scratches in his shell. If my phone will... There we go. We've got the now sort of quite infamous scratch in the top right there, which has been on a couple of iterations now. We got some other scratches into his shell. And his back shell seems quite plain. I'm quite surprised there isn't some scratches and chips and marks in there, like there was with Leo, but it's really nicely detailed and some thought out bits there. I suppose the lack of chips is probably in keeping with the look of the film, or at least in the early prototypes, Playmates would have had access to. He's got one of his pouches which is nicely painted. The articulation obviously remains the exact same as the other turtles, so there's no need to go through that. But yes, overall I'm really happy with these figures. And there we have the basic line figures. We have the 4 turtles, Splinter, and then the 4 villains. There's not really a lot else I have to say. I'm really happy with these. They have a great level of articulation, some nice paint details. You know, for the price point, you can't really ask more. You know, would it be nice if Bebop's back was painted? Yes. Is it a deal breaker? No. I mean, most kids aren't really going to notice, and most collectors are going to have him facing forwards. So for the price you're paying for what you're getting, that you can't reasonably ask for anything else. You know, paint app wise, I feel these are a step above previous Playmates toys. Sometimes Playmates can be quite sloppy with their paint apps, but there's nothing like that here. They've taken a lot of time, care and effort into these, almost as if they want this to be the next line that they keep going for as long as possible. Hopefully that's true. I know there's rumours that we might get a new cartoon series, or that this would be a trilogy of films, but either way it's great to see the turtles back on the store shelves. So I really do hope that these are successful, and I kind of have had the feeling that they have been. My local toy stores have had these flying off the shelves and had to restock quite quickly. So hopefully we will see a second wave, hopefully with a single release April. We really do need an April on this. But yes, thank you for watching the basic figures. I will have a separate video for the vehicles. Thank you.